Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Hundreds of people participated in the Lethbridge to Coutts convoy in recognition of the one-year anniversary of the Coutts border blockade. A controversial speaker who has spoken out against residential schools and the BLM movement has had her speaking engagement in Lethbridge cancelled. And our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari has an update as to potential peace talks involving Russia and Ukraine.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. The World Health Organization says the pandemic is at a transition point. Officials say COVID-19 remains a global emergency, but the pandemic could near its end this year. The WHO estimates that close to 90% of the world's population has some level of immunity to COVID due to vaccination or infection. The WHO first declared an emergency in January of 2020. Officials say weekly deaths related to COVID-19 have dropped 70% since the peak of the first Omicron wave in February of last year. Canada's Chief Public Officer of Health, Dr. Theresa Tam, says the WHO discussion is important, but COVID-19 monitoring and public health responses will not end here in Canada. You know, shortly before the weekend got underway, Lethbridge Police advised motorists of possible traffic disruptions inside and outside of the city on Saturday as a result of a planned convoy from Lethbridge to Coutts. PCN's Naveen Day caught up with the convoy and has the details.
It's been a year since the sound of honking horns made its way to the Coutts border in protest of public health mandates. And now, a convoy has done it again. This time, it's not just to observe the one-year anniversary of the convoy to Coutts, it's in order to raise funds for 4 men charged with conspiracy to commit murder, a weapons offense, and mischief over $5,000. Chell Landry is the organizer of the convoy and event, which includes a barbecue and silent auction. I had a chance to catch up with her when the convoy rolled into Lethbridge shortly after they did a slow roll past the Lethbridge Correctional Centre. She says it's important for Canadians to remember that the restrictions imposed by the Trudeau Liberals have yet to be lifted.
They haven't been lifted, and people are going on as if they are because they don't know the difference and they don't understand what's really happening. People are just happy like, oh, well, I can go to Costco now, you know. So it's really important to create awareness and show people what's really happening and make them aware of our laws and the rights that we have, because they are being infringed upon, not just for us, not just for these 4 men, but for all Canadians. And it's really sad they don't know that, because if they did, we'd have a lot more support and the government wouldn't be able to bully us.
The 4 men charged are Anthony Olenek, Jerry Morin, Chris Carbert, and Chris Lysak. Landry says she feels the men are being held without bail because they are political prisoners.
They're being held to create an example of what can happen if you stand up and speak out against Justin Trudeau or the mandates or what he's trying to push on Canadians, which is a direct violation of our Bill of Rights, our Canadian Bill of Rights and our Alberta Bill of Rights.
According to Landry's team, 235 vehicles were counted as participating in the convoy. The event was peaceful, and no one showed up to protest the event. As for the 4 accused, they are set to go to trial in June. The 3 men accused of organizing the blockade and protests at Coutts last year and who are charged with mischief over $5,000 are Marco Van Hugenbos, Alex Van Herk, and George Jansen. They will have a trial by jury commencing April 2nd, 2024. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
A former Montreal University professor, Frances Widdowson, has had her upcoming lecture cancelled by the University of Lethbridge. Widdowson recently made headlines for alleged controversial comments she made about residential schools and the Black Lives Matter movement. As BCN's Micah Quinn explains now, representatives from the U of L Students' Union are happy that Widdowson will not be making an appearance at the post-secondary institution.
It's very dangerous to, support the notion of spreading false narratives and discriminating against certain demographic of our students.
University of Lethbridge students didn't mince words on Monday morning following the cancellation of Francis Widowson's speaking engagement at the U of L. It was supposed to be held on February 1st and was called How Wokeism Threatens Academic Freedom. In a written statement on Monday morning, Dr. Mike Mann, the president of the University of Lethbridge, said in part, to ensure our community is safe. In the context of this planned lecture, the university will not provide space for this public lecture to occur on campus. Students from the post-secondary say the announcement was a long time coming.
I know academic freedom and freedom of expression and freedom of thought are protections that are provided under Canadian law. However, those very same protections don't protect from the consequences and the harm that they inherently do.
2 petitions against Widowson coming to speak at the U of L were brought forward asking for support, with each generating over 1,000 signatures.
I feel if it had not been for the countless signatures and the countless support that we got from community members, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, maybe this decision would not have moved forward so fast.
Bridge City News reached out to Francis Widowson for comment on the story, but we have yet to hear back. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Well, we experienced a few more centimeters of the white stuff today. Angela Stewart is out of the field at City Hall and has an early peek of the forecast. Angela, it appears as though warmer temperatures are on the horizon, so we should be seeing a meltdown in Lethbridge fairly soon.
Yeah, Hal, the snow that we are seeing in our region currently is only a minor setback, I would say. And we will be seeing some improvement later this week with temperatures and conditions improving starting tomorrow. Tonight, though, the wind chill reaching -22, our low sitting at -10. As for how the rest of the week is looking, I'll have all those details coming up later in the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Angela. The outbreak of pertussis, also known as whooping cough, continues in our region. Alberta Health Services says the virus is quite serious, especially for younger people. Dr. Vivian Suttorp, Medical Officer of Health for the South Zone, says outbreaks typically happen every 3 to 5 years, normally in communities where there are low immunization rates. Dr. Suttorp explains what some of the symptoms of whooping cough are.
I think a challenge during this time of year, it's also respiratory virus season. So there's lots of viruses that lead to runny nose, cough, low-grade fever. Whooping cough also has those same symptoms early on. What's unique about whooping cough is after about a week or so of this general respiratory symptoms, there is an ongoing cough. And this cough can last for months and months. And it is called whooping cough. Typically in young children, they cough, and when they inhale after a big, long episode of coughing, you can hear that whoop.
Dr. Suttorp says the best preventable strategy is to get immunized against the respiratory virus. You know, it was an issue that many animal shelters have been experiencing over the course of the pandemic, the surrendering of pets, and not many people wanting to adopt a dog or a cat. To help manage the intake of animals to the shelter and to cope with those lingering pandemic effects, the community animal shelter implemented a managed intake program. Officials say the initiative has helped when it comes to bringing in strays to the facility.
Since the implementation of that in the fall of 2022, it has worked, and we've been able to sort of get back to a more manageable capacity level, as we were operating well over 100% of our capacity near the end of the summer and into the fall. As the weather got colder, the intakes did slow down a little bit, and then using our managed intake program, we were able to sort of ensure that we always kind of stay at a good level.
Pleward says the shelter is operating at just over 50% capacity. He's encouraging anyone who's looking at adopting a pet to swing by the shelter. The high-level bridge is the longest and highest bridge of its kind across the globe, spanning 1.6 kilometers and 314 feet high. It is still considered one of the great wonders of the world. The popular post-apocalyptic TV show called The Last of Us has the bridge featured in a shot in the upcoming 4th episode of the series. The president of the Lethbridge Historical Society, Belinda Croson, says it's pretty amazing that the bridge will be showcased in such a cool way.
To see any part of Lethbridge in this TV show, of course, it makes us very proud. We know we have amazing landscapes, amazing venues, amazing spaces, and it's wonderful that the Americans are figuring that out as well for TV and movie productions. We know what bridge it is, we know where it is, but hopefully others will want, and hopefully it'll make others want to come see it when it's, actually really in existence and not just blowing up in their future minds.
The 1909 completion of the high-level bridge was designated a National Historic Event by the Canadian government in 2005. Concerns are growing across rural Alberta about the implications of the province's renewable energy boom. Alberta is now home to more than 3,800 megawatts of wind and solar capacity, 1,350 which came online last year alone. While some farmers and ranchers are enjoying the extra income that playing host to solar panels and wind turbines can bring, others are sounding the alarm. The rural municipalities of Alberta recently called on the province to protect taxpayers from incurring costs associated with potential decommissioning of renewable energy infrastructure. A new year in federal politics kicked off as MPs headed back to the House of Commons to take their seats for the first session of 2023. Many parliamentarians say the economy is the top of mind. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says he plans to focus on trying to get the federal government to rein in spending.
After 8 years of this Prime Minister, mortgage payments have doubled, up to $7,000 per month for an average house in Toronto. Rent prices have doubled, up to $2,500 a month for an average place in Toronto. The number of people eating at food banks has gone up to 1.5 million, and crime is up 32%. So we wonder where all this $500 billion of inflationary debt actually went. Now we know. Liberal friends got the money. So I'm going to ask a third time. The well-connected insiders at McKinsey, how much did the Prime Minister give them? How much?
Over the past number of years, we've invested in supporting Canadians from coast to coast to coast, to lift families out of poverty, to help seniors make ends meet, to invest in low-income renters, to help people access dental care for their kids, to deliver the kinds of things that have made not just Canadians better off, but our whole economy work better. We're going to continue to step up in investing in Canadians while Conservatives continue to push cuts and austerity and not being there for Canadians.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says the New Democrats plan to push the Liberals to fulfill the terms of their mutual support agreement and roll out the planned expansion of federal dental care. Singh also says universal health care for Canada is important.
We believe we need to go in one direction, which is to invest in our public universal healthcare system, hire more healthcare workers, and defend the system we have so no one has to worry about the cost of healthcare. And we build a healthcare system for the next, not just couple of years, but the next decade that is public and universal. And the Conservatives and Liberals want to go in a different direction. They want to support the privatization and for-profit delivery of healthcare. They think that's innovation, and they want to build a system that's more like an American-style private for-profit healthcare system.
Manitoba Premier Heather Stephenson has made some changes to her cabinet. She is demoting 3 ministers who recently said they will not be seeking re-election. They are Cameron Friesen in Finance, Reg Helwer in Government Services, and Alan Lazimodier in Indigenous Reconciliation. 4 backbenchers, all from Winnipeg, are being promoted to cabinet. They are Abby Khan, Kevin Klein, Janice Mordley, Lecomte, and James Teitzma. Cliff Cullen goes from Economic Development to Finance, and Eileen Clare moves from Municipal Relations to Indigenous Reconciliation. The Saskatchewan government says 83 new temporary shelter spaces have been created in the province. It allocated $1.7 million for the initiative last November. The Social Services Ministry says it has worked with community partners to create the spaces, which will be operational until the end of April. They're located in Saskatoon, Regina, and Prince Albert. Hazel McCallion, who led one of Canada's largest cities into her 90s, died on Sunday morning at the age of 101. Known affectionately as Hurricane Hazel, the longtime mayor of Mississauga, Ontario, may have been diminutive, but an outspoken political powerhouse.
Hazel McCallion was a remarkable and inspiring leader, an extraordinary woman, and a really good friend. Over the past couple of decades, I had many opportunities to speak with her, to learn from her, to get advice from her. The last time I spoke with her was about 10 days ago. It's hard to believe she's gone because she has been such a presence in Mississauga, across Ontario and across Canada for so many years.
She was such an incredible person, and she touched the hearts of literally millions of people, not just in Mississauga, but across Ontario and across the country. She was very instrumental and a real icon. She was a trailblazer with women in politics.
The man known as the Golden Jet and the first player to earn $1 million NHL salary has died. Hockey Hall of Famer Bobby Hull passed away at the age of 84 over the weekend. Over a pro career that spanned 23 years, Hull played for the NHL Chicago Blackhawks and Hartford Whalers, along with the Winnipeg Jets when they were part of the World Hockey Association. He and Chicago teammate Stan Mikita helped popularize the curved hockey stick blade in the NHL. Critics say police video of the deadly beating of Tyree Nichols by officers in Memphis, Tennessee is a reminder of failures of police reform efforts. Advocates say nothing less than a cultural change in policing will provide more safety for Black people in the United States.
Mom! My first impulse when I heard about it was, oh, here they go again. Put the focus on the person who was being policed and their ethnicity. I thought police were blue lives anyway. Isn't that what people were saying several years ago? So at that time, it didn't matter if they were black or white or brown. They were blue. Regardless of the color of the police officer, you have spent time in the indoctrination process. You're indoctrinated to believe that certain groups are more prone to criminal behavior than others. And so you treat Black people as if they are guilty until proven innocent. You treat white people as if they are innocent until proven guilty.
In light of the recent mass shootings in the United States, a mother in Buffalo, New York has embarked on a mission to motivate citizens and their political leaders to find solutions to all of the gun violence. Zanita Everhart's son was injured in the Buffalo shooting last year.
My son was shot by someone because he's Black in 2022. For me, when just this past week, when I saw what happened in California, I had to turn my television off for a minute. Here we are again. Every other month, here we are again. Here we are again. And the problem is, when are our lawmakers who can do something about it gonna get tired? When are they gonna get scared and frustrated, right? Like, when does that happen? Because I feel like that's the only way things are gonna change. A few weeks after, right, June 8th, I went to Washington, D.C. to testify before Congress to talk about what happened to Zaire and the need for gun reform. And my message to them is that don't be numb to this. This should hurt you. You should feel something when you see a news report.
Tragedy in southern Pakistan as a bus crashed into a pillar, caught fire, and killed at least 40 people. Authorities say the accident occurred near the town of Bella in the Las Bella district. The investigation revealed that the crash occurred due to speeding when the bus crashed into the pillar of a bridge. It caught fire soon after, falling off the bridge. Many of the bodies were burned beyond recognition. They're being transported to Karachi for DNA sampling. After being identified, they'll be handed over to the victims' relatives.
अभी जो है ना रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन जो है वो मुकम्मल हुआ है और इसमें तकरीबन टोटल जो डेड बॉडीज़ हैं उनकी कुल तादाद जो है वो 40 है और 4 ज़ख्मी हैं जिनको करीबी अस्पताल शिफ्ट किया है और अब इन डेड बॉडीज़ को जो है वो कराची सिविल हॉस्पिटल.
In a separate incident, Pakistani authorities say at least 10 students who were on a picnic in the country's northwest drowned after their boat capsized on a lake on Sunday. There were 25 students on board the boat. The dead ranged in age from 11 to 13, and 9 children remain missing. 7 people were killed and 10 others were injured near a Jerusalem synagogue on Friday. Our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari has those details.
Well, this actually happened in reaction to Israel going into Jenin and killing 7 terrorists. And of course, the vendetta was taken out against people who were attending prayers at a synagogue on the eve of Sabbath, Friday night in Jerusalem, holiest moments of the week in the holiest place on earth. People of all ages, they showed the victims. And, the next morning, a 13-year-old carried out another terror attack at the Jerusalem gate. So it's actually 24/7 for a lot of these terrorists. They go back to plotting and scheming, and they take it out on citizens.
Our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari will also have the latest on the war in Ukraine and if we're any closer to seeing peace in that country. She'll have details coming up in the second half of our program. Well, it's looking like a winter wonderland once again across much of southwestern Alberta. It has been cold and snowy, but fortunately, a warming trend is on the way. Full weather details are coming up. Well, we had a number of snow plows out clearing many of the major arteries here in the city today after we received a few more centimeters of snow. Angela Stewart is out at the field in City Hall and has all of the weather details. Angela, fortunately, some of that snow should be melting this week with some milder temperatures on the way.
Yeah, warmer temperatures are on the way, thankfully, and the snow we are seeing is only temporary. Tuesday, the temperature improving for the day, -4 and a mix of sun and cloud. Increasing clouds on Wednesday and a high of +1. Thursday, a mix of sun and cloud and a high of 3. Climbing up to +6 on Friday and a mix of sun and cloud. Shaping up even better on Saturday, a high of 8 degrees and a mix of sun and cloud. There's also a mix of sun and cloud expected on Sunday and a high of +6. The average high for this time of year is 0. The average low is -13. So we're actually well below our average high. Now, the highest temperature recorded back on this day in 1962 was 15 degrees. The lowest temperature, look at those numbers, a chilly -39 back in 1969. The sun rose at 8:07 this morning and it set at 5:22. When we look at temperatures across the country now for Tuesday, in Victoria's soggy conditions, there's a chance of rain or snow and a high of 4 degrees. The same can be said for Vancouver, 3 the high and a chance of rain or snow. For the rest of the prairies, in Edmonton, -10 the high and a chance of snow in Edmonton. Shaping up fairly nicely though in Calgary, -7 the expected high and a mix of sun and cloud. Into Saskatchewan now, -20 for tomorrow and a chance of light snow for Saskatoon. There's a risk of frostbite. The wind chill in the morning near -31. In Regina, a chance of light snow and -20 the high. Risk of frostbite as well with the wind chill at -33 in the morning. In Winnipeg, increasing clouds for Tuesday, -22. The wind chill -38 in the morning. Make sure to bundle up. -30 in the afternoon. Risk of frostbite there as well. To the central part of the country now, in Toronto, seeing a mix of sun and cloud for tomorrow, -4 the high. Our nation's capital, -8. Sunny skies in Ottawa, sunny in Montreal, -10 for the high. Snow is expected in Fredericton tomorrow, about 2 to 4 centimeters, -4 the expected high. Cloudy and snow in Halifax, 0 for the high. -3 in Charlottetown with some of that white stuff too, 2 to 4 centimeters expected. Mainly cloudy in St. John's and reaching a high of 0 for the day. And that's a look at your full weather forecast from City Hall here in Lethbridge.
Today's weather report is brought to you by Ridge Utilities, providing competitive rates for electricity, natural gas, and internet, while investing back in communities across southern Alberta.
The deadline to complete Rogers' acquisition of Shaw Communications has been extended until February the 17th. All parties involved in the deal agreed to the extension. Now, if approved, the deal would see Rogers acquire Shaw, while Quebecor's subsidiary Videotron would acquire Shaw's Freedom Mobile wireless business to offset competition concerns. The companies say they're continuing to work with Ottawa to secure final approval of the transfer of wireless spectrum licenses from Shaw to Videotron that are needed to close the transactions. Electronics and medical equipment maker Philips says it's cutting 6,000 jobs around the world over the next 2 years. The Dutch company made the announcement after it revealed a net loss of $1.7 billion US last year. The job losses come on top of a reduction of 4,000 staff announced last October. The company has been hit pretty hard by a worldwide recall of sleep apnea machines and economic headwinds. Ford is cutting prices on its Mustang Mach-E electric SUV by up to $6,000 US just weeks after market leader Tesla made similar moves. The company says it's increased production of the Mach-E this year while taking advantage of streamlined costs to reduce prices across the board. Ford says the price cuts are part of a plan to keep the SUV competitive in a fast-changing market. Experts say Ford's move will force other automakers to trim prices as well, touching off a price war for electric vehicles. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 142 points on the day to finish at 20,572. The Dow was down 260 points to 33,717. The S&P 500 was down 52 on the day to 4,017. And the Nasdaq was down 227 points to 11,393. West Texas Intermediate oil was down $1.89 to $77.79 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 17 cents to $2.68 US. Gold was down $4.91 on the day to $19.23.13 US an ounce, and silver was even at $23.61 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $12.08 per bushel, barley's at $9.25, canola's at $18.71, and corn is at $11.30 per bushel. Live cattle February contract was up $2.03 to $158.75. Feeder cattle March contract was up 45 cents to $183.93, and lean hogs were down 73 cents at $75.15. That's the February contract. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to $74.71 US. Recapping one of our top stories, the World Health Organization says the pandemic is at a transition point. Officials say COVID-19 remains a global emergency, but the pandemic could near its end this year. The WHO estimates that close to 90% of the world's population has some level of immunity to COVID due to vaccination or infection. The WHO first declared an emergency back in January of 2020. As the war in Ukraine approaches its one-year anniversary, are we any closer to getting a peace deal done between Ukraine and Russia? Our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari will give us some comments and an update in just a moment. If you see news happening in your community, be sure to drop us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. We'd love to hear from you.
Here's today's Bridge City News Community Calendar. Lethbridge City Council wants to hear from you. The city is exploring the option of harmonizing speed limits in both playground and school zones. During this process, community feedback is being collected to help inform City Council's decision. Lethbridge residents are encouraged to learn more about this proposal and provide their feedback through an online survey which will be open until February 19th. You can find the survey at getinvolvedlethbridge.ca/harmonized playground zones. Celebrate Recovery is a Christ-centered recovery program for any hurt, hang-up, and habit. This group meets Friday nights at Park Meadows Baptist Church. The evening begins at 7 p.m. with a large group session, followed by small groups at 8 with coffee and dessert at 9. For more information, visit celebraterecovery.ca or call Park Meadows Church office at 403-327-4422. And that's today's Bridge City News Community Calendar.
There are reports that a Palestinian gunman killed 7 people near a Jerusalem synagogue. He was later shot and killed by police. It was the deadliest attack on Israelis in many years and raised the likelihood of more bloodshed. Now, to talk about this and other details is our foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari, host of the Foreign Desk, and she joins us once again from Los Angeles, California. Lisa, could we see even more retaliation soon by Israel?
Well, this actually happened in reaction to Israel going into Jenin and killing 7 terrorists. And of course, the vendetta was taken out against people who were attending prayers at a synagogue on the eve of Sabbath, Friday night in Jerusalem, holiest moments of the week, in the holiest place on earth. People of all ages, they showed the victims. And, you know, the next morning, a 13-year-old carried out another terror attack at the Jerusalem gate. So it's actually 24/7 for a lot of these terrorists. They go back to plotting and scheming, and they take it out on citizens and civilians, not on the military. This is, you know, it's not tit for tat when you think about 7 terrorists being neutralized, taken out in the Palestinian authorities versus, you know, actual, you know, worshipers at a synagogue on the Sabbath. I mean, it's mind-boggling how the world responds. And of course, we're covering at the Foreign Desk, but you don't see it much on the mainstream media. You will see it, however, when Israel attacks back or has to retaliate or has to defend itself, and then you'll see the disproportionality, and they'll talk about how Israel's using its might and how they have to be reviewed by the UN, and you know, the world, you know, global opinion starts coming out about how Israel is so unfair and so violent. But these are the stories that must be told, where people in Israel cannot put their guards down. There's a report out that within the last couple of months, but more so the last 48 hours, how Israel is becoming very lax on gun permits because they want actual, civilians to be able to defend themselves. Obviously Israel is fantastic with its counterterrorism measures, but in these cases, when a 13-year-old has a gun, or this perpetrator in the synagogue, I mean, how can you really protect yourself when they come into such vulnerable situations and go after such vulnerable people?
A number of our viewers are wanting to go on some of the holy walks where Jesus walked into Israel and Jerusalem and some of the other really holy areas. But how safe is it right now in the Middle East?
Right. It's very hard to say. On the one hand, you have, Israel's always prepared, right? So they are more careful and more prepared and have more intel than any place on earth. So in terms of their counterterrorism measures, they are more prepared than anywhere you'd hope to be. So in one sense, you feel very safe. But there are more targets, more attacks, more people wanting to blow themselves up, or more wanting to kill Jews, or wanting to kill, worshipers. So Christians aren't safe in that part of the world either. How, if you remember the story that we did at the Foreign Desk with Christian worshipers at the Temple Mount having to wear yellow garb to show that they're Christian worshipers. I mean, are we back at the Holocaust where people have to actually mark themselves to show what religion they are? Under Israeli rule, 3 religions of the world can peacefully pray next to one another. And they have for so many years. And of course, there are these terrorists that won't allow that. But that's the picture that the world is not painting. That's the story that you don't get. That's the narrative that is untold. So, I've been to Israel so many times, and I continue to go, whether it's for reporting or, to see different things. I've been on the Syria border, I've been on the Lebanon border, I've been to Gaza, I've been to different parts. But of course, many, many threats, but also a ton of security.
And you have to think too, at the same time, people wearing the vest, will they be a potential target? It's almost like having a target on your back. It's like, okay, Jew, Christian, let's take them out. I don't know, depending upon, whatever extremist happens to be there at the time. Lisa, there are reports that Israel was behind a drone strike targeting an Iranian munitions factory over the weekend. Iranian officials say their air defenses struck down one of the drones, but 2 others caused some damage.
Yes. So over the weekend, Israel thought we have to take matters into our own hands. The Iran regime is not being curbed by the West. And they're marching forward. Look, they're not in an Iran nuclear deal. Not that even did anything, but they're actually out to spite the world, to flex their muscles, and obviously to continue forward with their weapons program, just like they were under the nuclear deal, by the way. So let's just put that aside for a moment. But, we have thousands of Iranians protesting for the last 4.5 months, with the world not even, blinking an eye to say, here they are, they're telling us their story. We know that this is the Iran regime. They have not complied with the nuclear standards. They have, marched forward with their weapons program. They have put billions of dollars into global terror. I mean, if you want to know where these Palestinians are getting their arms, where these families of the martyrs, so-called martyrs, are getting paid every month, well, it's the Iran regime. Connect the dots on the global stage, whether it's in Iraq or Lebanon or Yemen or Gaza or anywhere else. It's Iran's regime that's the piggy bank of this, all these terror sprees. So it's really confusing as to why the West is not supporting regime change in Iran like the people of Iran are asking for. And here you have Israel saying, you know what, the least we can do is at least set them back on their weapons program, since we are their main target, their closest target, and they have vowed many times to take Israel off the map. And remember, as of 1979, after the Iran Revolution, they vowed that they have 2 sworn enemies, the big Satan, which is the United States, and the small Satan, which is Israel, very close by in their neighborhood.
Now, speaking of conflicts, an Air Force general is predicting that the United States will be at war with China by the year 2025. Can you explain?
Yeah, it's not too far off to think that may be a possibility. This general put forward this basically speculation that in 2024 we'll have elections here in the United States, and people will be kind of distracted. So China will take that opportunity to invade Taiwan and therefore launch us into some sort of heated conflict with China. So it's not too far off. We know that China's, beefing up their assets in all ways, whether it's cyber or military. They're spreading their influence throughout the region. And of course, they have shown a lot of provocation when it comes to Taiwan. So it's not a crazy speculation, but we'll have to wait to see if the United States wakes up and we kind of become stronger on our foreign policy. I know the Biden administration has gone weak, especially on China, with President Biden meeting with Xi Jinping only a few months ago and not discussing many of the important threats and questions, and more than that, delivering a threat. I mean, they spoke for almost 3 hours and none of this was discussed, but Biden did walk away and say, I'm pretty confident he's not going to invade Taiwan, but we have no reason to believe that, and we'll see if this speculation comes true in the next couple of years.
Yeah, speaking of which, a Marine Corps has opened its first new base in decades to counter that potential threat of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan.
Yeah, so the United States is not taking this threat lightly. They have expressed that this is something we have to be prepared for, and they have started to offer training to Taiwanese military to give them perhaps some sort of leg up on this conflict should it happen, or I should say when it happens, because it appears that they are preparing very much so and assuming that it will happen.
What's the latest with the war in Ukraine? Is there any more chatter of a potential sit-down and peace talks between Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin?
It looks like they're both going more and more extreme in their own direction, with Zelensky demanding, I'm not even going to say asking, but demanding more from the international community. It's more tanks, missiles, give us all you have. I mean, with the United States, it's been like a Christmas list of all the things that they want. And once they get it, like this week when they were given tanks, he's now saying he needs missiles, he needs this, he needs that. If you recall, rewind back to when this all started, President Biden said that there wouldn't be tanks given. This is going to be, dragging us into a war. And in fact, fast forward to this week, we in fact gave them tanks. I know Canada gave them a handful of tanks, and it's crazy to think how much the world community is giving into this conflict, which has no resolve in sight. And even if there should be some sort of solution, what would that solution look like? At best, how can we turn this around and say that we did well with Ukraine and we did well in the war against Russia and Ukraine? It's not going to happen. And for that reason, the diplomatic relations, or whatever they call it, should be, the priority here to say, how can we best get this off ramp for Putin? How can we get him to back down without putting more resources into something that has only caused bloodshed and people to uproot their lives and move across the world or wherever they're headed. And again, with no end in sight. That's really the bottom line. We're 1 year into this, billions of dollars into this. And again, it doesn't look like there's going to be any light at the end of the tunnel soon.
A number of countries are also saying they're simply tapped out when it comes to giving money and military equipment. In fact, some in the United Kingdom say that country is so vulnerable right now that it may not be able to defend itself from a potential attack.
Yes, there was a similar report here in the United States months ago where they said that we gave Ukraine so much that if we would want to give Taiwan in the near future, we wouldn't have the resources to do so in a meaningful way, meaning that we kind of, in terms of the ratio, we kind of played very heavy-handedly in providing Ukraine with these weapons. But again, as I said, this is something that we have to weigh out. If there looks like, there will be a victory for Ukraine, then that's one thing. But at this point, what would a victory look like on either side? So I don't know why the billions of dollars are going towards this, why all the resources are going towards this for any European or Western country. It looks like it's really good money after bad.
What's also raising eyebrows is the fact that Zelensky is asking for more missiles, more tanks, more guns. But what about humanitarian aid, such as medicine and maybe food, for a lot of its citizens who are severely impacted by this war?
Yeah, it seems like it's more, and it's only talking about military aid. Well, there are rights groups on the ground delivering that, and obviously, working towards, providing for the people there on the ground. Look, the resolve of the Ukrainian people has been unbelievable. So in that regard, I understand why people are mobilizing to help them. But again, on a political scale, we have to look at the pros and cons. And again, what would be the best case scenario in helping, the Ukrainians and get out of this in a timely way. But it's a war-torn country. It's not going to be back to normal tomorrow by any means. So the fact that Zelensky wants to still roll up his sleeves and get more, again, I think the West should be questioning him instead of allowing him to come and question the West the way he has many times, addressing Congress and other political bodies in the West.
He was also blasted a few times when he addressed Congress in a T-shirt, and he didn't even dress up for the event, didn't even put on a shirt and tie or whatever, and so anyway, let's not talk about that. What about rebuilding Ukraine? Who's going to pay for that after the war is all said and done?
Exactly. So, why suck your global partners dry when you'll need more of their help before? And that really begs the question as to what is Zelensky's goal in all of this? Is he really trying to rebuild his country, or is he trying to build his military arsenal for the future? What is he doing with the tanks, the missiles, etc.? Again, there has not been this conversation as to what's the constructive way to move forward and to really put an end to this for the people of both countries. You look at the Russians that are drafted and dragged into this war, and they don't know if they're going to go home. And again, for a very senseless political stunt by Vladimir Putin that we again don't know where this is headed.
She's our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari, who joins us once again from Los Angeles. Lisa, thanks so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
With the health struggles we've been seeing around the globe, more and more people are trying to find ways to strengthen their immune system. Our guest today is Dr. Clayton Kogana, who is a neuropathic doctor in Lethbridge with Well Vitality Health Clinic. He's also done some training in conventional medicine with a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science, Kinesiology, and doing 3 years of research on radiation and cancer at the University of Lethbridge. So great to have you on once again, Dr. Kogana. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Great. Okay, so with all the health challenges that we're seeing these days, it seems that there's a big spike in people who want to build up their immune system in order to stay healthy. Of course, we're seeing this post-COVID. Now it's the new year as well, so people got those resolutions going. So, and there is also a lot of talk that vitamin D is a good immunity builder. So tell us about vitamin D.
So it's been shown vitamin D, it's a fat-soluble vitamin. Our bodies produce it through our skin with sunlight. Most Canadians don't get enough of it. It has an important role in the immune system. Its role actually is not only immunity itself. Most people think that it is only for your mood and immune system, which are big parts. It increases your body's ability to produce, activate white blood cells and different cytokines. So taking it reduces the severity and duration of colds. And so therefore it's good. We also recommend not taking too much of it because what a lot of people don't realize is that its main, probably more so important function is calcium. It actually allows calcium to better be absorbed through your digestive tract and also build bones stronger and healthier. And so you don't want to take too much of it because it could actually increase your internal calcium too much. And over the years, a lot of people have been taking massive doses of it because they see it as boosting their immune system, etc. But now that everyone's kind of on that train of taking it, we also want to heed a little bit of caution with not overdoing it.
Yeah, good advice there. What are some other supplements that are known to build the immunity?
Oh, well, there's a lot of them. Like astragalus can help to increase white blood cell production. N-acetylcysteine is inherently antiviral, as are beta-glucans, which come from mushrooms. Vitamin C is a very popular one. I think that the research on that really shows that taking it as a preventative isn't as effective, not really very effective, but taking it when you have a cold is quite effective. And then there's a lot of other supplements, a lot of other herbs out there as well. that are equally beneficial for boosting the immune system. Some are antiviral, like garlic is very antiviral, and it's also increases your core temperature to help to kill the viruses as well. And so, yeah, there's a ton of options there that are very safe and very effective.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we've heard about a ton of these herbs that are antiviral in nature, so garlic being one. If we wanted to find out more information on that, can we find it out in your shop there in Well Vitality?
Yeah, you can always book in with any naturopathic doctor. We're very educated in both conventional and alternative medicine to try and just help provide good evidence-based treatments for these things, beyond just taking your regular cold medication. But yeah, it's one of those things where you don't want sometimes just to start taking a bunch of supplements because you don't really know how they're potentially going to interact with your medications, et cetera.
So, Dr. Kogana, your clinic actually offers ozone therapy. So maybe tell us about this. What is ozone? What does it do for our health?
So ozone is it's a gas, O3, so it's heavier than oxygen, which is O2. It's actually a fantastic treatment. Most people haven't heard of it. It has extremely good research to back it up as well. It itself is antimicrobial, so it is active against both viruses, bacteria, parasites, etc. But it also increases your cytokines, which are chemical signals in your body that fight against and activate when you're sick.
Wow.
So it multiplies your ability to fight against the infection as well as helps to kill the infection at the same time. And it also donates an oxygen into your bloodstream, which can help with energy production and mitochondrial function. So its role is sort of quite complex, but it has excellent research to back it up as an antiviral and just antimicrobial in general for people that are quite chronically ill. It's a wonderful treatment.
Yeah, it sounds like a magical treatment or something.
Yeah, it seems it's something that most people haven't heard of, yet it has just an astronomically large amount of research articles proving how effective it can be against viruses. It's quite remarkable, actually, and I encourage patients to always look it up as well.
Yeah, is it more for somebody who's kind of prone to certain illnesses, or like if you're just sick, can you go in and get the therapy done?
Yeah, there's different IVs that we can do for boosting immune systems and helping with that. But definitely it's something to at least be aware of as a potential treatment option that you could talk to your naturopathic doctor about, for sure.
Great. Okay, so switching gears here, how much of a role does stress and anxiety play when it comes to our immune system?
It's extremely important. It actually lowers a lot of different white blood cells in your body when you're chronically stressed out. And it also spikes up a hormone in your body, a very important hormone, a stress hormone called cortisol. And your cortisol allows you to handle and deal with stress. And when it's elevated, it severely limits your immune system and your cytokine production. And so stress and anxiety, it's really important to manage that. Otherwise, people will get a lot easier. It's a lot easier to get ill when you're stressed out due to those hormone changes.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of old advice there. Reduce your stress. I mean, with that said, what are some things that we can do to reduce stress?
Well, there's a lot of different activities that you can do to reduce stress: yoga, meditation, exercise, etc. But I think, in my practice anyway, what I really like to tell my patients is most people have to take something off of their plate. They're doing too much. People these days, everybody is doing too much. We have too much on the go. We've said yes, and we have to learn to say no. And I think that it's a very important thing, and it's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to, say no to things so that they have better balance in their life. And I think that that's a lot of times where a lot of people's stress are coming from. We can't change and fix all of our stress, but we can definitely help to decrease it by just sort of stepping back and looking at things and, creating a better balance.
Yeah, I wish there was that magic pill that we could just take and all our stress is eliminated. That would be wonderful.
That's right. I know.
So, I mean, we've
It
all,
doesn't always happen that way.
we've all heard about like exercise and proper rest, important for immunity, but how important is it? How much can exercise actually improve your immune system as well as rest?
Well, it's good. I mean, exercise can help flush out bacteria and viruses from your lungs. It also helps to, increase your blood flow and helps to increase and stimulate white blood cell production. So that's a good thing. On the other hand, vigorous exercise too frequently also can be a stressor on your system, and it can actually activate your cortisol production and lower your immune system. And so it is a double-edged sword, exercise. And I think really the point of that is you just have to listen to your body. If you're feeling really tired and you need some sleep, rest. Don't push it too much, especially during the winter months where these viruses are just getting, to come back, and they're quite severe. And you don't want to overdo it. But exercise in general is extremely good for us.
What about people who suffer from insomnia? I would imagine that must lower their immune system. Is there any help for that type of condition?
Yeah, so sleep is extremely important, because if you're not sleeping, it is actually innately quite a very large stress on your body. And in turn, it will affect your white blood cell production and your cortisol production, and it makes you way more prone to getting ill. And so sleep itself, being as important it is to immune system, is also very difficult for us to treat, because there's a lot of different factors that go into why someone might not be sleeping. And unfortunately, there aren't many tests to run to figure it out. Some, like, sleep studies, et cetera, can look at certain issues, but if the issue may be potentially stress related or chemical in nature, decreased melatonin secretion, decreased GABA secretion, elevated stress, it is kind of a guessing game when it comes to supplementation or treatment for sleep. And so the way that I kind of approach it in my practice is that I will, be very forward and upfront with that with patients, but also there's, and then we just usually try different methods, try different things based on what we think the cause is. Do we try a very strong passion flower root extract to calm them down, or maybe melatonin if they've been traveling or they're on shift work or something like that. There's a lot of different things that you can try for sleep that will absolutely help the immune system, but it will vary based on the person. Completely vary based on the person.
Wow. Okay, so we talked about ozone therapy. There's also different types of IV therapy used to boost immunity. So, some of us have had IV administered in the hospital, but now many natural health clinics are using this IV therapy to help with immunity. So maybe can you explain how this works?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing magical, but what it is we're basically just, we're bypassing a couple systems. The first system would be the digestive tract. Now, a lot of people come to us also with digestive issues, so maybe they're not absorbing or assimilating things as well as they could be. And then beyond absorption, it also bypasses what we call the first pass of the liver. So usually when you take something orally, it goes through your digestive tract and you absorb it. Then it goes into your bloodstream and then to your liver first. And your liver sorts through everything and excretes most of it if it thinks it's excessive. So when we're trying to treat something where you're ill or sick and you're trying to take extra vitamin C or maybe extra B vitamins to help to boost your energy and help to fight against the virus, your body doesn't always absorb what you think you're taking. And so an IV of these things, intravenous, goes directly into your bloodstream, and it goes directly to all the cells in your body, and you absorb 100% of those things. So we can dose things quite a lot higher and ensure that there's no absorption issues either. And so it tends to be quite a significantly stronger therapy when it comes to treatment compared to just oral supplements alone. Most patients have already tried a lot of oral supplements by the time they come to see naturopathic doctors, and they're kind of wondering why it's not working. And a lot of times intravenous can kind of get them over the hump and get them back in shape faster.
That's really fascinating. What kind of success rate do you have with patients who have had this IV therapy?
Extremely high. We do it when it's indicated, and in my practice, especially, I really love testing to make sure we're not missing anything. So I do, medically accredited labs here privately, just so that we test things in depth. When it's indicated, we do IVs, and it's certainly not indicated in everybody, but when it is, we do them, and the success rate is very high because how we kind of prep before we consider doing the IVs.
You'd mentioned that a lot of patients have those absorption issues. How would a patient know that this is an issue that they're having? Or is this kind of like the last draw? Yeah.
Well, absorption issues really often go hand in hand with gastrointestinal issues or digestive tract issues. So not always. I mean, some patients may be losing hair or have brittle nails, or maybe they're fatigued and they don't know why. Just because perhaps they're very used to their digestive issues, they don't really know. But usually when people are kind of coming in, they know that something's wrong, in which case then we can check and we can test things very thoroughly based on the area of the digestive tract that they're coming in with symptoms, whether it be stomach, whether it be small intestine, or whether it be large intestine. There's fantastic tests to figure out, is it an issue and where is the issue? And then also we know exactly how to treat it.
That is just absolutely fascinating, and I could talk at length about this with you, but it looks like we are getting close to being out of time. So thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Dr. Clayton Kogana is a naturopathic doctor in Lethbridge with Well Vitality Health Clinic. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.